Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honablew Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real. Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. How are you doing? You're like, why is he so excited this morning? One, it is a great day to be alive. It absolutely is, especially when it's Titillating Tuesday. You all know that's my favorite day of the week, not only because it gives me the excuse to say titillating as much as I want, but I get an opportunity to hang out at least virtually in the digital space, also in the metaverse and stuff, with one of my great friends, Miss Stacey Dennis of Urban Mystic Apothecary. We're gonna bring her in a little while because I'm not trying to get no show notes. I'm trying to make sure I get all the stuff I'm supposed to do done before I get in because I have fun. I ain't gonna front. I have a great time. We're gonna have a great time later. Oh, we're gonna have a great time talking about syphilis. Yep. I bet you never heard that before, huh? All right, okay. So let's get into it. Let me tell y'all about Breadcoin. I love the fact that I get to start the show and talk to you all about things that are in place to help people. Breadcoin is an organization that takes your donations and turns them into value to these coins that they mint themselves, and they distribute through an existing network of service providers and community network advocates and organizers, so that we know who the people are that need help in the community, and Breadcoin gets the coin to them. Now, the next part is the part that just touches my heart the most. When people go into the participating restaurants and go into the participating caterers and they pay with Breadcoin, no one has to know why. No one has to know if it's just Breadcoin mixed with cash, whatever it is. No one has to know. People get to maintain their dignity while getting the help they need. That is so awesome and amazing because so often in our society, especially because we monetize just about everything, people want to see people who look homeless enough or who look hungry to validate their gifts. I think that's not necessary. We could just give because it's the right thing to do. And we can help people maintain their dignity while they get their needs met. And so I am very proud to work with Breadcoin and for the partnership that Black USA News has with Breadcoin. As you all know, Maryland is having its 2022 elections this year, and Black USA News is continuing our coverage and making sure that you have the information about the candidates. So not only do we bring you information like from our host and our pundits on the political happenings in Maryland, we also bring you the candidates themselves. We have interviewed dozens of them, and we provide those interviews to you so that you can make up your own mind. We are in very perilous times as a community, and it becomes critically important that we know who we're putting in office. And so I'm grateful to be part of Black USA News and making that happen. Oh, I am very excited because I think I'm going to get taken out to Darker Than Blue at 413 North Charles Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21201. See, this is what happens when you whine enough. I come out here every morning telling people how hungry I am and that I love Darker Than Blue. And then guess what? Hey, you want to go to Darker Than Blue soon? I'm like, yeah, I do. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please and thank you. Cowboy Prime Rib. I made sure I sent her the menu in advance to make sure she knew how to adjust her budgets because I'm not a cheap date. I'm not. I did not get this with this robust and rotundness by eating salad. So I need you to make sure that you prepare your. But plus, I like to drink too. I'm not going to get too wild on somebody else's dime. Plus, she's cute, so it's cool. It's cool in the gang. But all that said, make sure that if you have an opportunity, and that might be a nice little date night. If you see me out there, don't come over and say nothing because I'm gonna be on a date. That's disrespectful. But if you have a date night to do, consider Darker Than Blue Grill, 413 North Charles Street. It'll be a great time. Let's see what else is. Oh, yes, we have a special guest recruitment. Let me tell you about that.
Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. I am William Honablew Jr., and I have the privilege of being the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. The Black USA News Morning Show is currently recruiting guests for an upcoming series on single parents and co-parenting. We find that there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of isolation in the narrative about single parents. And we want to make sure that we keep this platform available to tell the true story, our people's story. The topics that we will be covering range from health, wellness, the type of support, how important your social support system is, romance, and things of that nature. If you're interested in becoming a guest, you can check the link in the description. You can email us at info@grindinggang.com, or you can visit this link. Thank you so much and have an awesome day.
Okay, we want to make sure that we keep the story told and keep the story authentic. So if you are a single parent or you know a single parent that you think may be interested in telling their story, please make sure you have them hit us up. All right. Ooh, is that everything? Is it time yet? I think it's time. It's time for me to bring to the stage the morning BlackUSA.news morning show's chief titillating officer, Miss Stacey Dennis. Hey, mama, how you doing?
Good morning, people.
How you
Something wrong with
doing?
you.
No, there's a
I'm
lot.
good. I'm well. I'm hanging. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm pretty well. So how was your weekend?
The weekend was busy. It's a gorgeous weekend. So, I hope everyone who was in the Northeast here who got some of that good weather was able to get out.
Okay, yeah, especially before, well, you enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoyed it before it turned to rain last night. Like I was, woo.
I know. I slept. I sleep in the rain, so it was good.
Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up. That is absolutely what's up. And so I bet you got a lot of good sleep last night because yeah, the rain was coming down.
You know what? Actually, I was up creating. I don't know if you can see the smoke coming my way, but
yeah.
I was up creating, and right now it smells fantastic in here. I'm in a chill space.
You know what? I never asked about that, but I always just assume like you would call off camera, maybe smoke, take a toke or two. But this is aromatherapy. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna ask you any questions about your chemical usage, but I take it as it goes.
I mean, I saw my lab over here over to the side. I was up here creating, and sometimes it could get my poor animals is like, what are you doing here?
Oh,
but this one they like.
Okay. Actually, you might want to make sure that you put that in the advertising for a lot of people with pets. It's like, hey, this calms them down as well. We ain't trying to calm you and get your pets agitated. That's not
exactly.
That's not how you make a happy home.
So what we on today? What we doing?
Oh, so today we're going to talk about your favorite thing, which again, I love being able to say that your favorite thing is syphilis. Like it makes my life so much more interesting. All right, so I have we from the first couple times that we jumped into this, we have this chart about STI prevalence and incidence. So right now we're talking about syphilis, and this is only for ages 14 and older. It looks like the prevalence is 156,000, as the incidents are 146,000.
So
that's the numbers. Why don't you tell people about like what syphilis actually is?
Syphilis is a bacteria, and the name for it is, the specific name is Treponema pallidum, and it is a bacteria. It has a very, very, very long history here on the planet. Sometime around 3000 BC, it decided, to mutate its variants, and one form of it is not sexually transmitted. The other form of it is sexually transmitted. The first really good documented cases of it came out of Spain from sailors coming from the New World. Serves them right. And that's where, Europe got this bacteria that it was not used to. sweeping through the continent, serves them right, and so they had no immunity for it.
Is it consequences of colonization?
They had no fix for it, for something that was common in certain parts of the new world. They had treatments for it because they had seen it before.
Hmm?
In Europe, they had never seen it before, and so they had no biological immunity for it. So
Okay, wait, because there's a public health piece that I'd like to bring up as we're talking about that particular piece. One of the things to remember is that Europeans, in addition to not having natural immunity to some of these things, Europeans were nasty as fuck. Like they would they would live with their like animals in their homes. They would just have like they would store bodies and like they would take like those piss pots they used to call them and dump them out the window into the streets. Like that's one of the reasons that the Native American population or the indigenous population in North America, why they got wiped out, because Europeans had developed so many of these critical strains because they had to. Like they were nasty, horribly nasty.
straight up
Like
yuck mouths coming from Europe to
and
the New World.
so
So
they
yeah,
that's literally in some cases a cesspool had developed these resistance to these types of like the plague. The people who survived had a resistance to it. Nobody else on the planet did because they weren't that nasty. And so a lot
nasty, y'all.
and
So
so I want to make sure that we understand this because I don't want anybody kind of glomming onto that and talking about the savages were spreading disease. I want to make sure that we understand that the immunity factor it happens as communities and societies and civilizations develop. Now, and I want to make sure that if we're going from disease to disease, the Europeans are way, as in everything, fairly fucked up in the world. They win by bigly and by huge margins. I'm sorry, I wanted to, I didn't want to miss. I didn't want because I could hear somebody going like, well, damn, they all had no, don't do that. Don't because
yeah, straight facts, William. Straight facts.
I didn't want us to even do anything that could be construed in the whole savage narrative. That's all.
Yeah,
I
no.
didn't disturb you, but I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to
No,
do that.
you were absolutely correct. And they, through the ages, have developed a treatment for them. And I guess they just didn't tell the Europeans because why should they? But it came across Europe, and the thing with syphilis, once it becomes the venereal disease type, spread from by physical contact or spread through the placenta. So it can be given mother to baby. And that's what makes it so dangerous because it kills babies. It makes them deformed.
I did not know
It makes them stillborn. So syphilis is nothing to sneeze at. And it's why our doctors today, when women go for their checkups, they are tested regularly, not because we think some kind of way about you, it's because to not do so would invite something may harm the baby, and then here you have to get treated prior to that baby being born.
I just want to point out the juxtaposition of those two concepts, because you have the situation where you clearly have been involved in unprotected sex because there's a baby.
Because there's a whole baby sitting here.
So if you have been exposed to sperm to create a baby, you have been exposed to sperm that can create all these other things. But again, I think it kind of goes back to what we've been talking in this whole series about the stigma associated with those people. People who get diseases are those people as opposed to just people.
Right. And working at the health department, I've had my share of women who've come in, tested positive for pregnancy, and like, oh, and by the way, you have syphilis. What? You know what I mean? And they're like, what? How'd that happen? The same way the pregnancy happened.
When a man and a woman love each other, they share a special hug. Like, what do you?
It's a thing. So I know that when people look at that chart and they see, HPV is way out here and HIV and then syphilis is not as as big as the other incidences and prevalence. Please understand that syphilis is still very, very dangerous. You know, it it has a series of it's one of my favorites because it has a series of symptoms that every time I had a patient with it, I would go through because it's what I'm looking at, right?
Is this it?
So what is this one?
It's first 12 months of infection, person become. I got this from I think it was Arizona, I think.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, this is about how the
Yeah,
symptoms.
yeah, yeah.
I
Oh,
try to
that's a good
prepare.
one. Okay.
I try to prepare. I be trying to do something.
That's a good one. Okay. So the first sign after you become infected, and when I mean you become infected, that means you have physically come across someone's chancre, and the chancre is a painless open sore. It is
Mm-hmm.
painless. It does not hurt. Um, and wherever you come across the chancre is where it will show up on you. And I'm not saying, oh, I got a syphilis chancre right here. No, it likes certain types of like certain types of cells.
Mm-hmm.
So it likes your lips. It likes, the epithelia of your lips, your vagina, your anus,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in your mouth. And it's painless. And I need to emphasize the fact that it's painless because on men, their unit is right out front. Their penis is right out front and you
Mm-hmm.
can see it. So if you
Mm-hmm.
see a sore on the penis, you'd be like, what that little thing right there?
That
Does
shouldn't
it
be.
hurt?
That shouldn't be.
But for women, there's no foreplay good enough such that they looking on the inside of your vagina. Ain't nobody taking a light, a little,
Mm-hmm.
baby, open up for a second. Ain't nobody doing that.
That
So
doesn't really
because the
sound
sore
like
is
sexy.
painless
Yeah.
and women can have them inside the vagina, how do you know it's there? Because it's painless. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I had my clients, I would say, did the sore hurt? Because if it hurt, I'm aiming towards herpes.
Okay.
If it didn't hurt, I'm like, how long did you notice it was there? Because it has a certain time limit that sore likes to be out. It'll dry up and disappear.
Mm-hmm.
The sore is round. It's a little indurated, and
Underrated.
see the little divot in the center of
Okay.
it.
That means it has.
And like I said, it can show up anywhere you came across. So I had women who had several sores on the outside of their lips, on their vaginal lips, and I was like, okay, so these don't hurt. She's like, no. I was like, And then I had one guy. I was like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
I know how you got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me, homie, you didn't notice a sore when you were, greeting the kitty? You didn't notice it was there? You didn't see it? Was she hairy? That type of thing. For my LGBT men, for my gay men, it could be on the inside of the anus. You would never know. I mean, who looking back there?
Mm-hmm.
If it's on the outside of the anal area, it's easier to see. But if it's on the inside, you'll never see it. You'll never feel it. And you're infected. All
Ooh,
right. So
I'm
this
sorry.
chancre lasts about 3 weeks,
I'm
drives
sorry.
up and disappears.
Just wanted to advocate for sex with the lights on, just for public health. Go ahead.
Oh
Sorry.
my God. Yes. For the first time at least. Have sex with the lights on. Don't be embarrassed. Let it all out. They're gonna get whatever body you give them. Shoot.
You ain't got
Have sex
nothing
with the lights on. Play doctor.
to
Is this a mole? It's a mole. How long's it been there? It's a change shape. You've had it all your life. Okay.
And again, get tested.
Please get tested. Tested. So that chancre disappears all by itself. You're still infected, but it disappears. It's done its job. It's been out there. Hopefully you've rubbed against somebody else to transfer it to a new victim, and then it dries up. And he's like, all right, my job is done. Next. And then a couple weeks later, you'll get a rash. And the rash loves the palms of the hands and the bottom of the feet. It's always bilateral. So if it's on the left hand, it'll be on the right hand. If it's on the left foot, it'll be on the right foot. It's round, kind of copper colored. It's really, for melanated people, you can really see it. It's really like brownish spots, very round. They tend to be a little itchy.
Oh, okay.
Tend to be a little itchy. But they can be all over the body. You can have a general body rash. Don't I don't want you to be like, it's just over my body. It's not syphilis. No, that's. And when I had one client, when I tell you, every square inch of her skin was covered with it. Every square inch of her. And I'm sitting here and I was like, how long have you been that way? She said, a couple months.
Whoa.
First of all, for that rash to be out there that long is an outlier. This is just like a huge outlier. Number one. Number two, she was a commercial sex worker. And so my next question was, were you still getting business? And she was like, yeah. Okay.
Patient zero in an outbreak.
You literally look like Pinhead. You still got business? I haven't had a date in 3 months and she still gets business. And I just looked at it. I was like,
let's be clear. If you just wanted sex work or sex, yeah, that probably wouldn't be that difficult. But and if you were willing to have sex with somebody who would have sex with somebody who was covered with rashes, probably wouldn't be that difficult for you to find that either. Let's just put it in context.
This poor lady. She found when it was not going away as fast as she was putting creams and things on it, trying to handle it on her own. She decided to come see us, and I'm glad she did. Luckily, she did not get pregnant through any of her work activities, but she had this rash, and I mean, through her hair, behind her ear, every square inch. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, honey, you all right? I mean, I'm thinking if it was as diffuse as I think it was, I was like, are you peeing okay? I mean,
And the rash is itching all over your body, right?
It was literally over every square inch. And so, yeah, we had to treat her for a solid month.
You said wherever the rash is, it's going to itch?
It tends to be itchy. Sometimes it's not, but it tends to look like it's drying out, kind of like when it dries out, kind of like eczema, and it tends to, some people tend to pick at it. Please don't pick at it, because the treponemes are just under that scab.
The what's the butts?
The treponemes, the bacteria that causes syphilis. Yeah, it tends to be up under that. Don't pick at it.
It's able to come out when you scratch it off.
It's easier to transmit to other folk. I mean, because it's just, and you expose your bloodstream and your skin, and yeah, don't do that. Okay. So that rash lasts for, it could last about a month, and then it disappears. Without you doing anything, without any treatment, it disappears all by itself. And so those time frames are important to investigators, because we look at those time frames and we're like, okay, so based on what you said and based on your symptoms, you were most likely infected here. Who are you having sex with between blah, blah, blah and blah, blah, blah? And then who were you having sex with up until the day you walked up in here? Right? Because whoever you were having sex with between blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah is probably who gave it to you. Everyone else is who you probably gave it to. You see what I mean? So we always ask for dates. And I know people are not in the mindset to be a human calendar at the time that I'm like, yeah, bend over, I got to stick you in the butt with this treatment. And let's have a talk about your sex life. You sitting there rubbing your cheeks and it's like, I don't want to talk about the calendar.
I'm still trying to process this whole situation.
This needle you still stuck in my butt.
And the fact that I got a disease, and the possible infections, and Homatel.
But it's really, really helpful. Now, I'm just going to say this and put it out there. These signs and symptoms and the way we know that syphilis works is due in large part to the syphilis study, the Tuskegee study on Black people, funded by our government, where they on purpose gave and did not treat syphilis in a bunch of Black men, just to see how the disease progressed. It is and I'm just going to put it out there, it's a giant fuck up for our public health system and for our country. It is an embarrassment. I hope all those people were roasted up until their deaths. Because these men had this disease. They didn't stop having sex, which means you gave it to they gave it to their partners. And because their partners were also not treated, that means you gave it to the kids. You let it roll in a community full of Black people while, protecting your white patients. So we just gonna put it out there. It's a huge fuck up and there's a huge reason why a lot of our people do not trust public health, because look at what you did. So as someone who advocates for public health, I absolutely understand. Yep, that's exactly what we did. Now let me tell you what we put in place afterwards.
So let me be clear on this one too. My opinion, and I own this one. It wasn't a fuck up in our nation's history. It was by design.
It was by design, exactly.
It wasn't like this wasn't.
It wasn't a oops. This was intentional.
And it also wasn't secret rogue organization doing all this stuff. This was in the mainstream of.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, it becomes important for those of us who understand public health, for those of us who understand politics, for those of us who understand to share that information, and for all of us to really step in and take the responsibility. Because having people like Stacey and some of the great I've seen what happens when you have great public health directors of public health, and I've also seen when you have. I've never seen a horrible one, but I've seen some that weren't that good, and can be disastrous.
Mm-hmm.
And the votes that we're talking about, when we talk about elections, those play directly into what Stacey is talking about. We need to make sure that we are electing people who will not put somebody in place that thinks that that's okay.
Exactly.
Like not even that they won't support it doing it, that they will screen people to make sure that they will not do things like that. And if they fall short of our expectations, we need to hold them accountable immediately, because we see what happens when we don't.
Exactly. And we need to be there in all levels of public health. We need to be there in all levels of public health. And that's why I'm an absolute advocate of public health, because I'm gonna be there watching you. I'm be there watching you and advocating for my community, right? So back to the symptoms of syphilis, we have the primary symptom of syphilis, which is a painless sore. And then after that sore goes away, we have a bilateral palmar plantar rash. It could be on your hands or your feet, or it could be a general body rash. Mm-hmm. And that lasts about 4 weeks, and then it goes away. And then you tend not to see anything. Oh, you're still infected, but you tend to look fine. The rash is gone, the sore is gone, you feeling great. It could last months, it could last years. And then all of a sudden your peripheral vision is gone. You're having problems with your eyesight. You got problems with your memory. You may develop a gumma. You may develop a lesion. This dude had this huge lesion. It was like right here. It was just weird. It was just this weird, large, massy, mushy. I don't even know how to describe a gumma, but it's a sign of tertiary syphilis. It is when the syphilis has gotten into your brain. It's gotten past the blood-brain barrier, the protection for your central nervous system. It has gotten past that, which most bacteria and stuff cannot do. It's gotten past that and has gone to your brain, and now it is eating at your optic nerve. You've gone blind, or you've gone, you can't remember things. You're gone a little crazy. Remember 8 to 80 crippling crazy? That's syphilis, because it can happen because you didn't treat it. When you first saw those signs and symptoms, you just like, well, it's gone now. I should be fine. No, not with syphilis.
That is not how science works.
It's not how science works, but that's how we are, because we don't really want to know the answer. We just want to make sure that we're okay. We just want to make sure that we look okay. And syphilis is treatable. You got to catch it, and you got to test for it. You have to just be like, you know what? I may have been exposed to something. Let me go to get tested.
Yeah.
So the treatment for syphilis, it has changed over the years. It has gotten less toxic.
Okay. So what do you mean less toxic?
It used to be treated with mercury.
Whoa, like
Right.
it was that bad, huh?
We'll kill the trepanine, but we may also kill you. But it's okay.
Okay, so yay, advancement in medical science. Okay.
So the standard treatment today is 2.4 million units. This is for primary and secondary syphilis. So if you come in with signs and symptoms I can see, you get 2.4 million units of benzathine penicillin G. It's a specific form of penicillin. It's an injectable form of penicillin. Don't go in grandma's cabinet and take her penicillin pills and think that this is cool. It is not. It is not the treatment for syphilis. All right. And I literally had a guy do that. He said, I took grandma's penicillin. First of all, boo on you for taking your grandmother's medicine. Second of all, it's not the treatment, you still infected.
And third of all, why didn't she finish the medicine out? And what does that mean about whatever bacteria she had in her?
Grandma. Name a grandma that throws out their medicine. They don't. They just keep it. You got this whole pharmaceutical. You got this whole pharmacy in grandma cabinet.
True, but let's touch on something else really quickly. And we touched on it a little bit in some of the previous episodes of this series. Making sure, while it's still just a needle, whatever, but as far as anything else goes, make sure you take the entire course of treatment. It is not just designed to make you feel better, because correct me if I'm wrong, there are some medications and some treatments that after 4 days of the course, you actually start feeling better and the symptoms resolve. But that does not mean, that just means that the most disturbing pieces of viruses or bacteria are still left. And so if you do not kill them and eradicate them, they will grow. And when they grow, they're going to grow into a stronger version of it. So again,
so now the medicine that you took don't even work for them anymore because they done shook it off. They were like, that was cute. What else you got? And so, and it's the same for syphilis. It is the same for syphilis because if you cannot take penicillin because you're allergic, there is a secondary treatment and it's doxycycline. Doxycycline is a pill. It is a broad spectrum antibiotic. It is very, very strong, but you have to take a month of it. You have to take a 28-day regimen. You have to take all of it. It is 2 pills a day. 2 pills a day. I think it's 2 pills a day. And you have to take it for 28 days. You have to take all of it in order.
What are the side effects of taking that powerful and antibiotic?
You can have some stomach upset. And I want to say doxycycline has some photosensitivity for some people. I got to look that up. Okay. You may want to cover up and not be, you may want to go tanning while taking doxy. I just want to make sure that that's correct though. But definitely stomach upset. Doxycycline is a broad spectrum antibiotic, which means it takes care of a lot of things in the body, but it also just so happens to kill the trepanine pallidum as long as you take the full regimen. Okay. All right. Now, caveat: doxycycline is fatal to fetuses. So if you're pregnant and you have syphilis and you're allergic to penicillin, and I cannot give you doxy because it'll kill your baby, what am I supposed to do? Yeah, I'm gonna give you the penicillin anyway. You'll just be under a doctor's care while I give it to you.
Have some EpiPen.
You'll be under, yeah. So any rashes, anaphylactic shock, we'll give you the penicillin. We'll give it to you slowly, and we'll be there to mitigate any reactions you have to taking penicillin. But you're still gonna get it because penicillin crosses the placenta and treats your baby. Doxycycline will kill your baby. I literally had a girl come into the health department and she had syphilis, but she was also allergic to penicillin. She was like, I'm not taking it. And I was like, you do know that the syphilis will kill the baby. And she says, I'm allergic. I don't know what to tell you. I said, oh, okay. Give me a second. And so I told the nurses, I told the medical director called the commissioner. Commissioner filed a warrant. Filed a health warrant. She got arrested, taken to the hospital, and she was given penicillin.
So watch this, and this actually brings up a larger conversation. I know we haven't decided to talk. We hadn't planned to talk about Roe versus Wade, but this brings up in this particular situation. You know, we often talk about the horrors that befall and not requiring. You know, the story of de jour is the 10-year-old who has been who had to go across state lines. We talk about that one, but here's the converse. It is taking those extraordinary methods to protect the life of the fetus. Now, if she had said, you know what, I'm just going to go get an abortion, that would have actually resolved the entire thing, right?
Yeah, technically. Well, at her point, she was already 6 months. And at that point, nobody in Maryland would have done it. With that being said,
Gotcha.
Yeah, that brings up all kind of legal.
Okay. And that's what I just wanted to check in about, you know, what are the facts that would have resolved.
Right.
Okay, but this is a deeper conversation for that. I just wanted
but it's true. And I was like, and it was it's just amazing that she wasn't like a couple weeks pregnant. She wasn't just 6 or 8 weeks pregnant. She was a full you know, and at this point, the baby is viable.
Yeah. Okay.
At her point, the baby is viable. And she was just like, I'm not getting treated. I was like, you do know that most likely because she had her prenatal late. So I don't know when you got it. I do have a clue because she came in with a rash, you know what I mean? But I was like, this baby could have had it, you know, for the entirety of your pregnancy. This baby had syphilis. Well, no, she had secondary. So for at least 2.5 months, this baby was probably exposed to this Trepidate. This will tell her what is going on with that baby. Please treat the baby. And I said, I promise they will have you in the hospital, sitting there with all of everything they need to stop any reaction you could possibly have. As it turned out, because, you know, she was forced to get the penicillin at the time. She had no reaction. And she thought that she was allergic to penicillin. I don't know what experience she had prior. She didn't have a reaction, thankfully. But if she did, the doctors and the nurses were there to give her the penicillin slowly and to stop any reaction. But the baby had to be treated. The baby was viable. It was coming. So that was the thing. That's the thing you have to think about if you are suffering from an infection and you're pregnant. And yeah, in certain settings, depending on your state, the public health officer in charge has the right to quarantine you and to force you to undergo treatment. Tuberculosis is one of them.
Yeah.
Tuberculosis is one of them. You can't just be sitting up here having a whole conversation, kicking out TB to the populace. Once again, we had people who had tuberculosis in Maryland. They were like, I'm not staying in my house. I'm not getting treated.
Yeah, you will. You'll do it at one of our lovely accommodations in Jessup.
And they will confine you and they will force you to undergo treatment because you have a highly communicable disease. And everyone in your family will get treated. Everyone in your immediate surroundings will also get treated. And, you know, you don't pay for it. Most likely public health picks up the cost for this. But yeah, you are going to have to stay inside because you are coughing up TB. So it's one of those things that you're going to have to look at whatever your individual state is and what powers your public health officer has.
And also recognize that there are consequences. So this is one of the other consequences of not getting tested or the risky behaviors. Because I can understand that part of the conversation isn't just about the cost of medical care, which, you know, happily public health will pick that up, but it is also the cost of quarantine. You know, if you are the primary source of income in your family or in your household, or even part of the income in your household, you having to be out of work for TB, for syphilis, for any of these things becomes problematic. And so again, that is why getting tested, making sure we stay keeping our people educated and keeping ourselves educated becomes critically important, because while we are thinking about the health outcomes, there are a lot of other collateral ones that that we don't even think about.
Right. And I want people to understand that part of the job of a DIS, we don't just look at your infection and who you slept with. I look at all the things that happened in your life that led up to that encounter or that affected how you respond to me in that encounter. Like for the person with TB, who did not want to be quarantined because he was barely making it, and he had family. He was barely putting food on, and I mean barely. And I want to say that at the time that his case actually came to me, because I was working TB at the time, they were just about to be homeless. And so in order to get them quarantined and treated, the health department picked up the tab to have him and his family in a hotel for the entirety of their treatment. We're talking 6 to 9 months, because he had no place to go, because we told him he could not go anywhere. And we had to give him this medication that turned his piss orange. And and every week I'm showing up asking him to cough in this can here. Cough, give me some spit, take it back to the health department, test it, see how much of that stuff is still in your lungs, and treating his entire family. So not only did the health department pick up the tab for housing him and his family in a hotel, we bought him food vouchers so they could eat.
Yeah.
So you're right. All of that stuff factored in. He didn't want to give anyone an infection. He also didn't want his family to be out in the street and hungry. Those two are both true.
And this kind of goes to a larger policy issue that we keep hitting on here. It is the focus on economics becomes the thing. Like literally, this man is put in, if the health department had not, because the alternative is that the health department could have not chosen a hotel and chosen a hospital or jail cell. And so the fact that the health department picked up these tabs, but what about people who are not even going in because they can't take a day off? I had a friend, he was working in hazardous waste removal, like real, like he was in there when, places they drop sharps off and stuff. He was on the back end of that. And they didn't give him health care. And like he, and his coughing, like at a certain point when I found out like how he worked and that there, and we talked about a little bit about the cost. I gotta be honest, I decreased the amount how often we hung around each other, because he was a smoker and he coughed a lot, but like, dude, you literally work around sharps that go to a hospital, going through the clinics. And he had to choose between this hazardous job that they were paying him very little for and feeding his family. Like, and still not having the resources to take time off to find out why the hell he's coughing.
Right. All of that is true. And it's why I love public health, because I'm afforded the opportunity to look at a broader view and to look at how our society is contributing to the promotion or the detriment of people's health. And no one wants to pay the cost to fix it. And it's gonna come back in cycles and get worse every time, which exactly is what syphilis does. So if you look at syphilis,
nice segue.
Thank you. If you look at syphilis over the course of history, it does this. It does this. If you look at it just in Baltimore City, you'll see it. You're like, why? Why can't it stay down? Because
I know.
Yeah.
The reason that it can't stay down is that we are responsive instead of proactive. When the numbers get high, that's when we move money in to keep it down. And then once money goes down, we find that take that same money and put it on something else that's high that goes down. And it is this
without a change in the people's behavior that causes the spread of the disease. So you want to throw all this money at it, but you don't want to change the common denominator, which is people's understanding of how they take care of their sex life.
They do it though. The money that they put in is only designed for short-term understanding. It's either designed for a particular population. Again, it's the fire extinguisher version instead of insulation.
Exactly.
Fire insulation.
Fire retardant, right?
Fire insulation. I was like, I know it's insulation, but it's okay. You get it. And
exactly.
What happens is that we come out with firefighters all the time as firefighters instead of contractors. And so that is why it is. But again, I still think it comes back to this root where we make all of an individual's value contingent on their economic viability or contribution. And like we talked about before, I have literally heard people being told that they are going to have to die because they don't have enough money.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there was something we can do, but your insurance won't cover it. Not that there's not something right over there. Not that, you know, I have this injectable thing for you right now that'll fix all of this
But
shit.
you can't afford it. Your insurance company is not going to let me give this right here that I have available right here to you. Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
How can I make you comfortable?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you know, that's not what we.
Oh, we can get into healthcare finance, and we got just a whole list of things to talk
Yeah,
about after this.
we just woo.
Got a whole list of things to talk about after this. But in relation to what you said, in particular, when I came on the scene for the health department, right around, gosh, my son is 97, probably in 2002, 2003-ish. Syphilis was just like popping off. It was just people like to call me. Syphilis was just popping off. Late 90s into the early 2000s, syphilis was becoming on a high. And I happened to work for a lovely public health, federal public health lady named Dr. Noreen Hines. And Noreen Hines was my first, working for her was my first entrance into the health department. She was just like a beast. She had all these clear down her shoulder on her lab coat. I mean, like, good Lord. And in working for her, she asked.
You good?
Please tell me it's not an emergency because she just hit me up again. So she said, we need to do a study as to why this keeps cycling in Baltimore City. In Baltimore City's case, not only did they close two health departments in the city, because traditionally Baltimore City used to have almost 1 million people, and there were 5 health departments. 5. But Baltimore City, because of the population went down, they didn't need all of these health departments. They closed one in South Baltimore. Now, if anyone is familiar with Brooklyn, Cherry Hill, Curtis Bay area, it's kind of separated from the major part of the city by the Hanover Street Bridge. And here in Baltimore, we are very married to our neighborhoods. We're not crossing that bridge. All right. And so you closed a major source of public health down there. Where they gonna go? And now, so not only did you close it.
You need to go back.
Hold on. Not only did you close a major health department, you took away the staff. You took away the number of staff like me who were disease intervention specialists. And so now there was no place for them to get tested, no place for them to get treated, and no people to investigate the incidences of disease. I don't know how it could have possibly, how the rate of syphilis could have possibly gone up.
But they got a stadium though, remember? It's a stadium.
Oh yeah, we got an awesome stadium.
Yeah. But I mean, when you look at the priority. Hey, you know what? We're gonna do something. We're gonna do something to change stuff. Watch this. All right. We're gonna host a program for people who are in community health, particularly those who work with youth and public health and that kind of stuff. We're gonna host a program for them on how to put together design their program so that they can get like funded and organized, collect data and all that. What you think?
What?
Yeah. Oh, wait. More betterer. We're gonna do it for free. There it is.
Okay.
Right, so we're gonna do this. Your contact information is on your website, right?
Yes, it is.
All right. So you all reach out to. I'll work with Stacey to get you all the information about registration and stuff like that, and we'll work out the details about the dates. And now don't get it twisted. So I believe in public health, so this shit's gonna be virtual. Don't some of y'all might got monkeypox, and I'm
monkeypox this way.
Yeah, no, I'm good. No, thank you. No, so it's gonna be virtual, but I really because your point is valid. I know that in Cherry Hill and Westport, they ended up, instead of the health department, after closing that, they invested in an FQHC down there, a federally qualified health center. And
Yeah.
again, it is wonderful that they have it down there, but that is different than having part of the government agency of the health department with that infrastructure and that institutional knowledge in that same community, because their motivations are different. And
Right.
again, not knocking them, they are a clinic, they are a health provider, they're not public health. They have responsibilities for the patients that come to them, not for the community at large.
Exactly.
And that is where we're missing the mark. And so we take care of these individuals that we can easily identify, but we can't identify them until they have it. So we got to wait till it gets a bunch. Then we say, hey, there they go. Let's do that. Then we shrink it back down, and they're like, all right, we're done. Yay. No, this is like that George Bush mission accomplished thing. You're not.
You're not done. You're not done. And there's so many things that go into it. I wish I had a copy of that report because it was so alarming. And it was all the fault of people who wanted to cut back on funding. And I was like, okay, so now that you done cut back on funding, you done closed the whole health department. I basically isolated a whole group of your city. And it wasn't just the people in South Baltimore, but it was that issue was highlighted because the syphilis issue was so prevalent in that area. But now you had to hire staff, which is how I got hired on. They had to go and hire new staff to be investigators, and they had to bring in clinicians quickly who could diagnose and treat and who were experts in STDs. And if you look at the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report from the CDC, you'll see a whole bunch of STD-related research coming out of Baltimore City right about that time, because all of our public health nurses were research nurses. They were absolute beasts in their field, which got me into wanting to be a public health nurse. These women were just amazing, because they had to study why this phenomenon was happening. And I was like, okay, so if you give them access to more public health care, you make it easier for them to come into the clinics, you hire more people like me. Anybody going to teach them a better way to have sex? No. So we're not going to tell them about, sexual health, because there's no time to do it when you're in there getting a treatment. There's just no time to go into sex education, which you should have gotten either at home or in school. There's no time in that clinic. And so that's where I come in, because I love talking about it.
Absolutely. Because honestly, it's
what I do.
The education is the only thing that's going to prevent the spread. Because if you don't educate, people won't change their behaviors, and this is a behaviorally spread disease.
It's a behaviorally spread disease, exactly. So, like I said, like you said, we're very reactionary. We don't want to fix the problem until it shows up, and then depending on the problem, we're gonna just put our heads in the sand. Young people having sex is a problem for adults. My whole issue in getting adequate evidence-based sex education now is never the young people, because they are eager to talk to someone about what it is that they're going through, what they're experiencing, what they're feeling. It's always the adults. Y'all done gave up having sex years ago. Why?
or they gave up having healthy sex, whether that's
exactly
healthy or mentally and emotionally healthy. To something you said, but you've said damn near every episode in the series, is that people are more willing to lie on their mama and tell the truth about their sex life.
Is the truth.
And even to themselves. Oh, I don't like
the truth.
I've those, and again, I'll speak for myself. Those nights where you wake up the next morning and see what you was looking at on Pornhub and like, ooh, I need to sit down and have a conversation with myself about a few things.
So
but until you get real about it, then you're this lie that you live, the lie that you live creates a lot of these opportunities for these types of things. If you believe you're supposed to be a good lover and understand things and how everything's supposed to go, that's what it is, then you'll just walk in and be like, yeah, this must look right, without asking. If you feel that, like I remember one of the stories you told was about the young lady who saw the green ejaculate and was like, "Oh, that's just when he gets excited." Why? Because you knew a little bit. You had probably heard about pre-com or whatever, and then just assumed that, oh, I don't need to do any more research. This seems like something that should be happening.
I had to do. Oh, she still makes me sad every time I sat there and looked at her because I couldn't. I was so mad, and I was so mad at who. I was like, who raised you? You know what? Never mind, because obviously they skipped some information. I'm like, where do you go to school?
Not skip. Explain to me where you think her mother or her father would have that information. Why would you think? I mean, they are. I mean, when you look at the continuum of the epidemics, because again, if you look at each one, it looks a little different. But when you put all of those over top of each other, when you look at the density and the population of anything, you start realizing that the kids are just their parents' kids making the same mistakes that their parents are making.
It's so bad.
And that's why that's one of the reasons we're going to do this, because there needs to be, the community has to be the disruptive factor in breaking that. Because one of the things I've been talking about on the show and some other episodes, some other days, was this idea that we get an opportunity to break generational curses, even at the population level. But let's not get it twisted. We do not live in Disney movies. So once we break the generational curses, now we still got to clean up the generational mess. That might be, for some of us, we just might be the janitors in our family. This is our job. Now, no, don't get it twisted. I'm not suggesting, it's kind of like the metaphor I've used before. It's like when there's a busted pipe and it starts leaking real bad. Now, to stop the breaking the generational curse is stopping the pipe from leaking, turning the water off, getting the water to stop.
Yep.
But guess what? You don't just go back upstairs. Like, okay, well, I stopped that. Time to woo. No, you got to go get the wet vac. You got to wash stuff. You got to check electrical plugs. You got to see how. Yeah, but my thing is, and you have to do that. And honestly, sometimes your kids may have to join you in that generational cleanup, because sometimes the water has been leaking in some of our families for so long.
Man, don't start that. That's a whole nother show.
That we got. Oh, you right. I'm sorry.
That's a whole nother show, and you know it.
I started feeling it too. I was like, oh, okay, all right, I need to calm down.
That's a whole show.
Titillated, girl. Look at you getting me titillated. And you know what? I gotta give you, because I was thinking about this as I was preparing for our show. You always talk about you need somebody to rein me in or whatever. You not slick, because I go back and I watch these. You not slick. I see what happened. Because even now, it's still titillating. Don't get it twisted. It's always going to be. But I've been looking at myself from over the course of the Titillating Tuesdays. I'm like, you sound more like educated. Like you trying information. Like is the dad jokes are even like to a minimum. Like
you have kept your id at bay a little bit.
No, honestly, no. You see, I like the fact that, again, you're not slick. You ain't saying nothing slick to a can of oil. I see game recognized game, and you look like a
nothing.
Yeah, see what it is, and see this is how you ought to see. Now I'm gonna put you out there. I'm gonna put you out. This is how y'all know y'all dealing with some real pimp shit. She done navigated and negotiated me over modified behavioral change over the course of like 2 months. To the point where and modeling behavior by keeping the conversation elevated yet entertaining. So now I'm just following along. Oh no!
If y'all in public health, you know cognitive behavioral therapy.
Don't get it twisted. I appreciate, and that's why I look back. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's done. So I'm sorry. This is not an insult. This is you've done a wonderful job. Like, I seem so much more mature.
But I haven't done nothing. I simply enjoyed the conversation because this is what I do, and this is what I like talking about. I don't care how weird it is. As long as y'all keep having those positive tests, I'm gonna keep talking about it.
All right,
I'm gonna keep talking about it. You're welcome.
So by next week, we'll absolutely, actually, hopefully by the end of this week, but definitely by our next show, we will have the information on the workshops and all the stuff to help people in public health do better public health and save some lives. Damn it!
Absolutely.
Woo. All right, got me worked up over syphilis and empowering the community and public health. Look at that. I'm gonna need to relax a little bit. All right, baby. I will talk to you next Titillating Tuesday.
Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it. I have a good time. Thank you.
right, bye. Oh, I told y'all I know dope people, and I love Tuesdays when I can get all titillated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you once again for joining us on this journey. I hope that you have learned something about the disease syphilis, but also how you can prevent it and how you can address it and the changes that you can make in your community. Also, am looking forward to providing the workshop on designing your programs in public health. But either way, no matter what we do, we will be Black tomorrow.